Hi there. I'm reading to you from in bed because that's where I like to read things. So I might as well be authentic here. And I'm reading from My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, and I might very possibly mispronounce some of the Italian stuff in this, but anyway, here we go. So this is a really short excerpt, and I'm going to follow it by some thoughts on it, I guess. So here goes. The Solara's 1100 pulled up beside us. Michelle was driving. Next to him was Marcello, who began to joke with us. With both of us, not just me. He would sing softly in dialect, phrases like, "What lovely young ladies. Aren't you tired of going back and forth? Look how big Naples is, the most beautiful city in the world, as beautiful as you. Half an hour and we'll bring you back here." I shouldn't have, but I did. Instead of going straight ahead, as if neither he nor the car nor his brother existed, instead of continuing to talk to Lila and ignoring them, I turned and, out of a need to feel attractive and lucky and on the verge of going to the rich people's school, where I would likely find boys with cars much nicer than the Solaras, said in Italian, "Thank you, but we can't." Marcello reached out a hand. I saw that it was broad and short, although he was a tall, well-made young man. The 5 fingers passed through the window and grabbed me by the wrist, while his voice said, "Miche, slow down. You see that nice bracelet the porter's daughter is wearing?" The car stopped. Marcello's fingers around my wrist made my skin turn cold, and I pulled my arm away in disgust. The bracelet broke, falling between the sidewalk and the car. "Oh my God, look what you've made me do!" I exclaimed, thinking of my mother. "Calm down," he said, and opening the door, got out of the car. "I'll fix it for you." He was smiling, friendly. He tried again to take my wrist, as if to establish a familiarity that would soothe me. It was an instant. Lila, half the size of him, pushed him against the car and whipped the shoemaker's knife under his throat. She said calmly, in dialect, "Touch her again and I'll show you what happens." Marcello, incredulous, froze. Michel immediately got out of the car and said in a reassuring tone, "Don't worry, Marcia. This whore doesn't have the guts." "Come here," Lila said. "Come here and you'll find out if I have the guts." Michel came round the car and I began to cry. From where I was, I could see that the point of the knife had already cut Marcello's skin, a scratch from which came a tiny thread of blood. The scene is clear in my mind. It was still very hot. There were few passers-by. Lila was on Marcello as if she had seen a nasty insect on his face and wanted to chase it away. In my mind there remains the absolute certainty I had then. She wouldn't have hesitated to cut his throat. Michel also realised it. "Okay, good for you," he said, and with the same composure, as if he were amused, he got back in the car. "Get in, Marcia. Apologise to the ladies and let's go." So that's the excerpt. So it's set in Naples, and it's set in a poor district of Naples where there are 2 really bright girls who do very well at school, and one of them persuades her parents to let her stay at school, and she does really, really well. And the other, who is much more brilliant, leaves school and goes to work in her father's shoemaker's shop, and it's one of those situations where they're best friends, and one of the best friends turns out to be much more brilliant and much more attractive without even trying than the other best friend. And so my thoughts. Well, I enjoyed the book. Nothing much happens. There's a lot of talk, and there are a lot of discussions of feelings and of life in working class Naples in the 1950s, which was pretty fierce and sexist and shadowed by the Camorra, which is the mafia in Naples. People are very passionate and they murder each other and they beat each other up a lot and they scream at each other, and so I guess that's Italian life. So I enjoyed it. On the other hand, I thought it was was a little bit overworked, like a little bit try hard. I think that to be a great novelist, you feel like you need to, people feel like they need to be very unusual and to make life very unusual. So ordinary life is not as you and I see it. It's as rarefied people see it, who have unusual viewpoints on the way things work. So, for instance, in the book, Leela feels like the margins of everybody are dissolving, and from time to time, and she sees even people she loves kind of dissolving at the edges and turning into monsters, and I just think that's kind of unusual. She is an unusual person, but I found it a little bit overworked, I guess, to say again, but I liked it. It made me think about the whole idea of having a brilliant friend who succeeds without even trying when you don't succeed and you try really hard. And I think everybody's had a friend like that, and I've had a friend like that who was absolutely brilliant and worked in a routine sort of job, in fact a whole series of routine jobs. So she never did anything that brilliant people do, like become a professor or work for a Fortune 500 company or anything like that. She just worked as a waitress or a printing assistant or whatever she could find at the time. And she also was effortlessly attractive. So it didn't matter if she cut her hair off or ate too much or dressed in op-shop clothes. She was just so pretty, it didn't matter. And so having a friend like that is really stimulating and really exciting, because she takes you places where you wouldn't go, being a sort of modest, plain little girl, as I was back then. But it's very challenging in terms of not feeling envy. And I think I did feel envy, and I felt that I wanted to be more attractive than my friend somehow, and that I wanted to prove that I was cleverer than her somehow. And I also wanted to copy her and be her and learn how to do the things she did, effortlessly charm people. And I tried out for Mensa once, and I couldn't answer the first 3 questions. I think it was some sort of time limit, but anyway, I'm sure if I'd had hours and hours, I couldn't have answered the quiz that's required to be in Mensa. Anyway, she was in Mensa, and she said to me once, "Oh, I could go along to the meetings, but those people are so boring," she said. Oh yes, so boring. So anyway, it's an interesting book, and well worth reading. So there you go. My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante.